History. A live podcast sponsored by the Marin Fire History Group. All about the history of the fire service in Marin County, California. And now your host, retired Fire Chief Bill Lellis.
Now, the second year went up to Sonoma. Is that how you guys flip-flopped it for a while?
We did. We moved it back and forth. We were fortunate to have Tony Pini helped us at one point to actually acquire the use of his training tower. So we had a tower that was like 5 stories high. We had also an area where we could drive our apparatus. At that point, we had people actually volunteering to bring their equipment, also donating their fire engines, their reserve engines to our program. So we ended up with a lot of donations. We also were able to get a lot of grants because of the training officers of both Marin and Sonoma. And we were able to acquire auto extrication equipment, like Homatra equipment that was thousands of dollars. They donated that. They donated all kinds of other pieces of equipment that we didn't have. Even though a lot of departments shared their equipment, we were able to do all of that through grants.
Fred, at that same time, as you recall, I was coordinating the College of Marin program, which was in a slow decline with classes and students. And to tell the truth there, Marin Community College looked upon Santa Rosa as the Darth Vader from the north. And we were... I could not convince them that we were going to lose our program to you guys in the Sonoma County. So tell us how Santa Rosa Community College and yourself and Carl actually took over the program permanently, and about when that might have been when it finally went to the college in Santa Rosa.
Well, we actually started our fire academy in 1988, and I mentioned earlier it was 3 units. 54 hours, and Carl insisted that we do this program by using both counties because he liked the idea of consolidating the 2 counties, especially in training and education. So it was his intent to try to keep it that way for as long as he could, and we did. And as time went along, we ended up making more and more contracts with Santa Rosa Fire using their facility, which had classrooms. It had a very large facility to do training. So we did that in the next, in the 90s. And it worked out really well. But we continued to use equipment and also instructors. We had at one point about 80 different instructors from both Marin and Sonoma. They were not only fire chiefs, but they were firefighters, a lot of them with expertise in a variety of different areas. So it took place at a time when it was necessary, even though, as you mentioned, College of Marin was not pursuing the fire science area. In fact, they were cutting back. So Carl had said, we've got to do something about this. And we were ready to expand, which we did. We actually grew our program from only a few classes to about 15 to 20 classes. And it just kept growing in a variety of different things. But at the same time, we made because of Carl's contact with the state and state fire marshal, he made contact with the, at the time, Chief Mullins, I believe it was, James Mullins. He pursued the idea of doing accreditation of academies. So we did that with him, and we got accredited as a recruit Firefighter 1 Academy. And that then preceded actually getting a accreditation as a full Firefighter 1 Academy through Chief Ronnie Coleman. So with Ronnie Coleman on board, he really pursued the idea of growth in this area. He was very interested in having the state be the overseer of the program. And we actually, through accreditations, we did peer assessments. I myself, along with other people, would go and actually review and interview other programs. I was fortunate enough one time, Tony Bacon had told me that his colleague and friend, Chief Ron Lance, was asked if he would like to go to University of Missouri to check out their academy. So Ron called me and said, would you like to join me? We'll go there and interview and check out that academy, which we did. And then the state also invited me and others who were involved in the academy to go out and interview and check on different different colleges started to use the accreditation as a method for growth. I ended up going with Art Coda, who is also a state fire marshal person in training. And we went and we interviewed and reviewed the College of the Siskiyous. Then I got a call one day from Ken Wagner, who used to be a Santa Rosa fire prevention person, who became the chief of Reading. He and I went and interviewed or reviewed the program, the Firefighter One Academy at Shasta. And both those experiences, all three of those experiences helped me and others to understand how important our academy would be if we looked at growth and how we could make it better and stronger, and the use of all kinds of resources which we had.
Right. I'll ask the first question I'll ask is, how long were you with the program? From the first academy to running the full-time, being a full-time academy, even after you retired, until you stepped away from and turned it over. How many years would that about been, Fred?
Well, that's a scary question. Well, to give you an idea,
don't be exact.
I started our first academy in 1988, and I took that program over in 1990 from Carl because Santa Rosa Fire wanted Carl to not be just the part-time director. They wanted him to be the full-time training officer, which he decided, okay, so he resigned, and I was fortunate enough to get that position from a person who was the director, Norm Cleaver, who was the director of the Criminal Justice Center there at Los Gilicos. So I started there as part-time, and I worked from 1988 for 30 years to 2010, which was the last academy. But we started out slowly. My career, 1969 when I started until 2020, was 41 years of service. But your question is, the program it kept growing and getting larger and larger, and I needed a lot of help. And I got a lot of help, as you know, as a fire chief. You get a lot of help from your staff. I was fortunate in Sausalito. I had one of the first secretary administrative assistant that we had. Her name was Celia Wittenberg, and she was an editor for Encyclopedia Britannica. So she helped me write the accreditation for the state, which was the third one accepted. Then I had two other secretaries that just were remarkable and helped me throughout all the courses. And the fire service, my fire department included, had Chief Stephen Bogle, who was very supportive, lent his hand in realizing, even though I was a firefighter, I also needed to get involved with the training, which I did. And I was promoted through the ranks of firefighter to captain to training officer to a battalion chief, and then I became the operations chief. And then when I retired from there, I retired in, let's see, this is going to be a tough one. I retired in 1997. And I then was appointed full-time director of the college. And I spent another, obviously from 97 to 2010 as the director.
Wow. I remember Norm. I remember the meetings with Norm up there at Santa Rosa. We would have a joint meetings with a training college program.
Norm was extremely supportive. He also had a law enforcement background. But the other person that I really I felt it was very important was the college president, and that was Dr. Agrella. He came to a lot of our graduations. He was very supportive of our program. In fact, when I retired, he came to my retirement party. I found out later the reason why he was so strong in public safety was that his father was a police sergeant with the city of Chicago.
Oh,
So that kind of background. But he was extremely, it's important to have administration to be supportive of your programs. And the program at Santa Rosa JC was supported a lot by the administration.
hey, Fred, I want to tell that story that you and I have spoken to, how far away a ride that your academy was known for. I'm at home. I'm retired. At home. It's like 8 o'clock at night. I get this phone call from Brooklyn, New York. This young guy with a heavy accent. Thank goodness, a beautiful accent, by the way. And he was inquiring about this fire academy he heard about in some place called Santa Rosa. So it was pouring rain. He was telling me he was an iron worker, and he was telling me he would like to become a fireman. And apparently, I don't know, on the East Coast, what their academy situations are like, but he had heard about the Santa Rosa Academy. So I took the time, I explained to him who I gave him your name, I had your phone numbers and all that stuff. Now he's in New York.
Right.
And so we parted, said thank you. He said thank you and wait. Well, it turns out the year my son Michael was in the academy, a gentleman by the name of Pat O'Connor from Boston, Massachusetts, was also in that academy, and he was a young guy who talked to me. I talked to on the phone and explained how to get a hold of you and how to. Then he ended up being a volunteer with the Valley of the Moon Fire Department and got hired at San Jose, the city of San Jose, and got homesick and went back to work for Lexington, Massachusetts. And the rest is history. But I just wanted to explain that to the people how well known your academy was, because it was known on the East Coast. So
one of the things we did, I'm sure they still do this, at the end of the class, we'd ask the students if they did find work where they could send us a letter explaining where they were working and maybe a little bit of how their training went to give them that encouragement. So we had people who had graduated in almost every state in the United States. They went and got jobs. For example, Colorado Springs hired 6 people right out of the one academy that we had.
wow.
We had graduates who went on because of their parents' multi backgrounds, and they were able to go, like, for example, to Canada. We had one student who was hired in Manitoba, Canada, and also one in New Zealand, and also one in the British Fire Brigade. And that was really something, because that's really a well-known group. And he was able to do that because of his mother. Anyway, so we were very pleased to know that, for example, your example of someone from Boston or from those areas found work coming to our academy. So it was a good indication that we were doing the right thing, giving the right kind of training and preparing these students, both men and women. And that was one thing I like to mention. If it wasn't for the women instructors that we had about 15 of them that we brought in from all different departments. CDF was the first group that we used. And the first woman instructor and training officer in the academy, Edie Ullman, was a CDF captain. And from that point on, we realized how important it was to encourage women to join our academy as well. So it was a good thing. And along those same lines, I think I mentioned this to you, Bill. I was teaching at Indian Valley College, and I was at the end of the class, I looked over and there was a student that stayed in the class, and she was a young woman about, I'd say, about 19 or 20 years old. And she looked very familiar. It turns out that her mother and I went all the way through school together. And here she was taking our fire science class And after she took our class and went through the academy, she was hired by the Phoenix Fire Department. So it was kind of a great thought that we had people like that who were interested in the program and were also able to go outside of the state of California and find work. So anyway, it was good to hear.
The next question, I'd be lucky if you know the answer. Do you recall the first female student that came into the academy? And was there any situation that you had to address for that? Because I recall our first volunteer female in Larkspur, and I would imagine the first female person in the academy went through some tough times.
So the first female student actually was hired by CDF, and because we had that influence of Edie Holman and others, we had like 3 or 4 different women who became instructors with us. They helped us through that idea of having women in the program, and also like you're mentioning, women in the firehouse and having things that have changed, because as we all know, it was pretty much a male dominated career.
Yes.
So it's no, it was and the other thing we had these. I want to mention this one other person. This was very important. It's important today as well. I hired this woman that I knew and met in Sausalito. She was a psychology person. She had her doctorate, but when she was hired by us, she was just finishing as a MASH nurse in Vietnam. And she was very much, she had knowledge of critical stress debriefing. She joined a group in Marin that was especially for critical stress debriefing for law enforcement. So I invited her to come to the academy as well. So we not only had women who were instructors, but we had women students. And in some cases, we had several at a time. Sometimes we didn't have any. And we tried to work really hard with not only female instructors, but also try to get out the word to other disciplines or other races, ethnic groups, and we were successful at doing that.
Okay. I don't know, right now, Fred, the academy grew just from firefighting, went to EMT, went to hazmat. So right now, when a student signs up for, do they still have the 8, 10, 12 week one all in a row, and then the one on weekends and in the evenings that you can attend?
Yes, we do. And in fact, in that, Ken Sebastiani, who's joined me today, with the director, he can tell you that, yes, we have different formats.
Does he want to move up and sit in that seat across from you and just?
Absolutely. Ken is
6 feet away from him, Fred.
Ken was one of our instructors as well. So
where are you now, Ken? And so how many hours and what are the subject matters that a student will encounter that signs up?
So the academy has evolved greatly with the help of Fred Bunker and the past directors. So that's been a pleasure. So currently we're at 585 hours. It's 17 and a half units. So it is a true commitment for the students to come through this program. During the spring, we offer a 14-week, Monday through Friday, 40-hour-a-week class. And then during the fall is called the extended. So that's Tuesday, Thursday night, 6 to 10, and then Saturdays and Sundays. So that's more geared towards maybe a working person. And so they cover basically everything. One of the new mandates from State Fire Training is Firefighter 2. So now they get Firefighter 1 and Firefighter 2 before they leave the academy, which is a great bonus to not only the student, but the firefighters and fire departments around here that's going to be hiring those people. They receive a hazmat certificate, confined space certificate, a low angle rope rescue operational certificate, which they're actually doing today. They receive a vehicle extrication certificate. They receive a Wildland Basic Academy certificate. And with that academy, with that certificate, they can get a job with CAL FIRE once they leave the academy. And then they get a whole slew of Wildland certificates also. So once they leave here, they are very well prepared, and they have a very good chance of getting a job once they leave here. one of the greatest things is when we graduate the subjects and the students, they have about a 75% higher rate between Marin County and CAL FIRE, and then all the other professional organizations within Sonoma County and the surrounding area in California. So if you look at it, it's a very successful program. And again, because of Fred Bunker laying the foundation and everyone kind of building upon it, it's been great.
Wow, wow, that's incredible. From no credits at all, Fred, first day at Hamilton Air Base, to what you're doing now. It's absolutely, and it's my understanding to get into the academy, you have to take some fire science programs through the regular old 30 unit fire science program.
You do, yeah. So you have to have your EMT, or you have to have first responder, EMT, or actually first responder, Fire 71, and then there's a class called Fire 208, and that's the pre-WEC. It's a 2 Saturday Sunday class. And basically it gives everyone the idea and understanding of what the academy is going to be. Because some people, they want to be firefighters, but they don't know what the background is. And so it kind of shows them the type of equipment they have to use, the type of person, your thought processes, your motivation level, the physical demands of the job, the tools that you'll be working with. And a lot of that helps people prepare, so when they come to the academy, they're more successful, because some people show up and maybe they're not in shape or they don't have a good understanding. And so this will say, hey, you know what, you need to do some more cardio, you need to do a little more upper strength, arm strength, leg strength, and then a lot of people show up for the academy, and then at the end of the academy we graduated more people because of this class. So it's a great class to have. Good expectations are set, and then they rise to the occasion and come through the academy, and they're successful.
Do you have a waiting list to get in?
We do. We always do. So currently we allow 40 people in the class, and we have a waiting list right now of right about 20.
Wow. Okay.
And we used to have a waiting list of about 80. So
Yeah.
one class. But the 208 that Ken mentioned was very important, because in that class, we also gave them a test of prior knowledge so they could prepare for the program itself. It was a good prerequisite as well.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I remember the inception of this academy at Hamilton, and where it is now in 2020 is absolutely incredible. As I said earlier, it's one of the greatest institutions the Marin Sonoma County Fire Chiefs came up with, and you guys took it over and ran with it and have done an excellent job. It's well renowned all over the world. Apparently, people have left it and speak highly of it. So, Fred, and you guys should be very, very proud of what you guys have done and continue to do. And
I can speak for Ken. We are very proud. I do want to mention, though, and I know Bill would agree with me, we had a lot of people that were really involved and were very helpful. One of the persons that helped me kind of guide me through all of this and actually asked me to do a history of the fire service at one point was Tom Forster, who was the chief at Skywalker Ranch. And one other person that, other than Ronnie Coleman, I got to meet, and he was somewhat famous, but he was really fun to work with. And he was the fire chief at Phoenix Fire Department, and that was Alan Brunacini. And he was very, very helpful in preparing the classes. He shared a lot of the curriculum and outlines with us to set up our program.
So one of the most wonderful things about the fire service is its ability to share and have no hesitation to share.
Right.
Knowledge was transferable to anybody that wanted it. Yeah. Hey, Fred, what are you and your wife doing now in retirement? Sleeping until 10 and 12, I assume. Thank you.
No, I don't sleep in, because I have a dog that's been programmed to wake me up at 5:45 every morning. I've been doing this for 10 years, and he insists I take. Well, actually, he takes me for a walk, so okay. I don't sleep in. But my wife and I have done a lot of traveling. We actually purchased a travel trailer. We're getting ready for a trip here this next week. We're going to go up to Shasta, and like you, Bill, and others, I've been really interested in travel. Of course, right now with the virus, it's kind of, it limits a lot of these things. But we took a lot of trips to Europe. We're looking at possibly going to Italy if that virus thing can be knocked down a little bit. But other than that, my wife goes to a lot of art workshops. She's an artist, and I try to volunteer where I've been involved with the food pantry in Healdsburg and with our church, the St. Paul's Episcopal Church in Healdsburg.
All right, all right. Hey, Fred, again, for your contribution to the fire service in Marin and Sonoma is just outstanding. It's my privilege to have known you and worked with you, and I wish you well. I hope you and your wife have great travels. My wife and I, we call it serendipity. Where's this road go? Let's go where this road. Where's this road go to? So that's how you travel when you're retired. So I want to thank you for taking the time to talk to us about this this wonderful fire academy. And again, I wish you well, and thanks for so much for talking to us today. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. Appreciate it.
You bet.